Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk to you about a very special game made by a solo developer called Convergence. And he just came out with a 0.4 update called the Hunting Seasons Update. And it brings a lot of new things to the game. The reason I want to cover this game on this channel is because first of all, it is VR and that's what we primarily deal with. And secondly, this game is quite impressive in terms of its gameplay loop. And for those of you who are familiar here with what I do, I typically have a strong focus on gameplay loops in general. I believe that's where you can derive a lot of the, of course, replayability of a game, but the art form of a game and the overall longevity and fun you can get from the game. And this game is attempting to do it in a very interesting way. Not only is it a single player Tarkov-like extraction shooter with multiple different forms of enemies like creatures and animals and different factions you can fight in terms of just good old-fashioned firefights you can get into, but the developer is including a sort of procedural generated maps into the gameplay loop. And this just overall adds that much more to the loop that you're going to be playing through the game. Now, I know I'm covering this game and I'm saying a lot of great things about it, but the truth is I have not played it. Yes, that is right. I have not played this game. And to be honest, for me personally, I'm just a little burnt out from this early access phase that we're in with video games. When Convergence first came out, it was still in an early state. And for me personally, I'm waiting for games to be more polished and more put together and have more content for me to enjoy. I'm not saying that this game came out entirely unpolished or had little content. In fact, it had quite a lot of content from what I've heard, but I still want to cover this game and give it some attention and give it my thoughts and opinions based on what I'm seeing with the developer. And of course, give you guys the news because that's what we primarily do also here on this channel. I want to give you guys the news on what VR games are doing specifically, and this update is massive. I'm incredibly impressed by this developer and I think we should pay very close attention to what this game has to offer. So let's go through the update. Ladies and gentlemen, this is patch 0.4. An open area called the Forest. This map is much larger than the previous two, so its size is limited in the first two raids. I'm not 100% sure on what that means. Does this mean like for your first two raids in the map will be limited to a certain size and then it'll get bigger? I think that's what it says here. After that, it says added a new enemy type, wolves. Now, with single player games like this, it is important to have multiple enemy types. I was playing a lot of single player Tarkov recently, and my thoughts on that game was it's definitely better as a PvP game only because lack of enemy types. It's so important to have multiple enemy types in a single player game because it adds diversity to the gameplay. In PvP, you can have one enemy type, say a guy with a gun who you are fighting, because you're always going to get into different situations and have to strategize differently depending on the player you're playing against. In single player games, you don't necessarily get that with AI. So it's so important to have multiple different enemy types that you must strategize differently when fighting. Wolves, for example, I would imagine would be faster, lower to the ground. You'd have to be more prepared for them. Maybe they stalk you through, especially a woods type map. It adds diversity to your gameplay, even being a single player game. Now, the next thing he described here is added new skinning mechanics for wolves and demons. I assume that's to collect rewards like pelts. I don't know if you can get food yet or anything from that, but definitely for rewards, I would assume. Added a new weapon, a crossbow, along with a pack of bolts. Bolts are available in the store. To unlock the crossbow, you need to complete the new quest lines. There's also a new quest line. Added a new character and their quest line, which becomes available at reputation level 2. Added new weapon attachments, offset, foregrip, canted sight, and 6x scope, all found only during raids. New character sound system, arm swinging sounds, new backpack sounds depending on its load, combined with whether you're sneaking, walking, running. These now affect stealth and how enemies detect you. This is really interesting because Tarkov has this where you actually sound heavier and clunkier the more loot you bring. When this was brought up to, say, the developers of Ghost of Tabor, they totally neglected to even bring importance to a feature like this. So I'm surprised that, you know, a solo developer can put this much content into a game that he's developing, and Ghost of Tabor with 50 employees can't even quite pull some of this stuff off. Doesn't really say anything bad about Ghost of Tabor, but how impressive this developer is particularly. It goes on and says added water physics for the canteen, new dialogue lines for scientists and military personnel at the base. Starting corridor. Oh, another thing Ghost of War doesn't have, it's got voice acting in this game, and by the sounds of the trailer, it sounds really good. A new belt position adjustment feature added to the settings, distance control. That's something I wish more games would have. I'm not even going to bring up the names anymore. Added avatar body rotation setting. Instant follows head movement exactly, or smart allows some head rotation without body turning. New animations for attaching suppressors and loading revolver rounds. When enemy bodies disappear, their loot no longer vanishes with them, but falls to the ground from their pockets. Okay, that seems like fairly important, especially if you wanted to like double back to a certain point of interest on the map and you just wanted to pick up that loot later on. Cigarettes can now be pulled out from the pack by hand, not just by bringing the pack to your mouth. That's really cool too. I'm glad he's developing cigarettes, because smoking in games adds so much immersion, and it's just a great feature to any game, as we know with Into the Radius. And this game is heavily inspired by Into the Radius, Escape from Tarkov, and Stalker, which is an amazing amalgamation of games, let me remind you. Optimize many scripts that previously had a heavy CPU load. Performance on older locations have improved. Amazing. We need that always optimize. I can't believe this guy did all this and optimize. Like, what is going on? This guy's a gaming Einstein. Small improvements to Bandit AI, which combined with bug fixes makes fights against some especially stealth encounters more engaging. More details below. And finally, this last feature is a new competitive season. Previous leaderboard results have been reset. Grab the chance to climb to the top. This doesn't affect earned rewards, unlock knives, and revolver will remain. That's really cool. I didn't know this game had a leaderboard for a single player stalker type game. That is insane. This guy is paying attention to some very awesome features to be adding into a game, and the fact that he's done this much in this short of a time tells me he's really on the ball. When did this game even come out? April of this year, and he's added this much. I'm dumbfounded. Not only does this game look really special, but this developer looks honestly probably one of the most talented people I've followed, and I am going to pick this game up. This game now has 3 maps. 2 of them have a nighttime variation with even more different enemy types and different rewards you can earn in those nighttime raids. Tons of variation, tons of content in this game that a solo developer had developed after making a game called Paradox of Hope that was given a cease and desist by the developers of Metro or their studio, or even Meta themselves. A single developer, mind you, somebody that can put together something so impressive that a multi-billion or multi-million dollar companies would feel threatened enough to put an army of lawyers together just to stop what he's doing. This kind of thing isn't something we get from huge gaming studios, and we're getting it from one person. I'm really curious on how he systemizes his game development and how he goes about it in general. This just seems incredible even when you compare it to big gaming studios. So obviously, as you can tell, I'm really excited about this game. I'm really excited about what this developer has up his sleeves. I think true talent comes out in very special ways, and this is going to be one of those ways, a manifestation of a project such as Convergence. And it's going to be something that I'm going to be jumping into. I will be streaming it here on YouTube very shortly. Now that we have 3 maps, it's going to give me enough to do and enough to show off, and it's going to feel like there's enough in this to feel like a game. So I am very excited to jump in and level up, experience the game for myself. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more VR gaming news. I typically cover games like Ghost of War and anything Combat Waffle Studios is developing, and also Tactical Assault VR and other games I find interesting. You can join my Discord in the description section down below. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves a wonderful day. Thank you very much.